The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac, and something a little different today. I've wanted to revisit this topic. I did it originally back during the pandemic. It's from Rolling Stone, their 50 best stand-up comics of all time list. Now, a couple caveats. This list is from February 14th, 2017. So obviously, between then and now, some things have changed. For example, it's not as cool as it once was to say, yeah, I love Dave Chappelle. It's definitely not as cool as it once was to say, yeah, Louis C.K. is the new Carlin, right? So there's that. And there's also things like, was Tom Segura any kind of name in 2017? I don't think so. Bert Kresicher, I don't think so. Now the Segura and Kreischer fans, they were great. You know what I mean? They're more popular now than they were in 2017. What got me started here is I was recently doing a story and I saw that Tig Notaro was on the list and I was curious. I'm like, okay, I like Tig Notaro. She's probably like 49, 48, 47. She's like in the mid 30s. And that made me want to revisit this list and see, all right, what's up here? So I'm just going to read the list and comment as I go along. I have not prepped for this. Number 50 is Wanda Sykes. Okay. Kind of have to see who else is on the list or not before I judge. 49 is Aziz Ansari. I'm not sure if you made this list today, Aziz would still be on the list. For one thing, he was comedy canceled. And two, I don't think the body of work is there. I think maybe back in 2017, he was a bit of an it comic, and he's not it at all right now. 48 is Margaret Cho. 47, Elaine Boozler. Nice to see her on the list. She may not be a name you know. Rolling Stone wrote, imagine the prototypical female comic of the 1980s. Big hair, suit jacket with shoulder pads and the sleeves rolled up. The brick wall behind her, you're imagining Elaine Boozler. I used to really enjoy her back in the day. 46, Reggie Watts. I just think that's crazy. I like what Reggie Watts does, but is he one of the 50 best stand-up comics of all time? I don't think so. 45, Freddie Prinze. You may be too young to remember Freddie Prinze. Not Freddie Prinze Jr., Freddie Prinze. He was a comet. He had that big sitcom Chico and the Man. He died by suicide at age 22. He only had one album called Looking Good and one early HBO special. He was a comedy monster for a very brief time. 44, Russell Peters. Good pick. He's under the radar in the States. International superstar. Love it. Good name to have on the list. 43, Amy Schumer. 42, Phyllis Diller. 41, Bernie Mac. 40, Gary Shandling. Yeah, he was a really good stand-up. Starting to become forgotten, which is a shame. Probably more known for his sitcom work or television work now. And you forget, he was in the running to host The Tonight Show. Johnny Carson had two rotating permanent guest hosts, Jay Leno and Gary Shandling. Gary passed away in 2016. Wow, it's been a minute. 39, Moms Mabley. Interesting pick there. I'm not that familiar with her work. 38, Roseanne Barr. So there's an example of someone who, if we redid this list today, I bet Rolling Stone doesn't put Roseanne Barr at 38. Who knows? 37, Sam Kinison. I probably would have Sam way higher on the list. Again, another shooting star, but for a few years there, wow, Sam was amazing. And one of those acts that when you first saw him, you were like, wow, this is different. 36, Daniel Kitson. Are you like who? Am I like who? Let's read the paragraph. Fusing stand-up and theater into carefully structured solo ventures, this British comic scrutinizes bits of his biography while contemplating bigger issues than the nature of time, memory, and individual perception. Kitson's incredible command of language and craft is apparent, whether mulling the death of an aunt or a scathing review of his act as he swirls in and out of odd tangents. Interesting pick to put on the list here. I'll be curious to see how many other British comedians make the list. I don't know what to do with that. That totally threw me. 35, Tig Notaro. I like Tig a lot. Is she the 35th best stand-up comedian of all time? Seems a little high to me. I don't know. 34, Patton Oswalt. 33, Janeane Garofalo. All right, so right there, I would put Tig ahead of Janeane Garofalo. 32, Patrice O'Neal. The comedians love him. I never enjoyed my time with him. He just had this thing where he would go at everyone just to make you uncomfortable and just made himself a person you didn't want to be around. I know the comics love him, but so I can't judge him clearly. Didn't enjoy my time with him. 31, Sarah Silverman. I would put Tig Notaro ahead of Sarah Silverman, no doubt. 30, Woody Allen. Didn't we cancel him? 29, Dick Gregory. 28, Robert Klein. 27, Red Fox. 26, Rodney Dangerfield. 25, Eddie Murphy. So it's interesting, right? Eddie, in some ways, was the Beatles, and in other ways, there's not much of that work there, and none of it in the last 40 years. So, yeah, I guess it is hard to put him in the top 5, and yet, for people of a certain age being my age, Eddie Murphy was the man, partially because we were too young to realize he was just doing a cover act of Richard Pryor really well. Let's take the break here, and we'll come back and do the top 25.
Welcome to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald.
And I'm your co-host, Matt McButter. We'll be talking to people who specialize in different ways of inhabiting their own consciousness, from artists to yoga teachers to scientists. We've even got a professional magician.
We're going to ask them questions like, what is consciousness? Why does it tickle? And what is magic anyway? Is it just card tricks, or is it the fact that your little speck of consciousness is part of a perfect possibility machine?
Find us wherever you get your podcasts and at storicmedia.com.
24, Susie Eddie Izzard. 23, Don Rickles. Love it. Maybe he should be hired. We got to see as we get closer. 22, Jonathan Winters. I know people love him. I never got it. 21, Bob Newhart. Fantastic. Have you ever listened to Bob's stand-up work? I know you know him from the sitcoms. Have you ever listened to his stand-up comedy? It's all 50. Check your calendar, John. 60 years old now. But it's really fantastic. Number 20, Mitch Hedberg. All right. I love Mitch Hedberg. I don't know if Mitch Hedberg should be ahead of Bob Newhart. And I love Mitch Hedberg. He's in like the top 5 of my personal list. Who's your personal list, Johnny Mac? Maybe I'll do that at the end. 19, Albert Brooks. Seems high to me. Maybe I'm just too young. 18, Kevin Hart. All right, Kevin Hart sells out arenas, and he's really famous, and he's in movies, and everybody loves him. Is he really that good of a stand-up, though? I don't know about this list at all. 17 is Bill Burr. All right. 16, Billy Connolly. Love it. 15, Stephen Wright. 14, Andy Kaufman. Interesting pick. Andy's like his own category. I don't know. You could tell me Andy Kaufman is the greatest of all time. You could tell me he's not really a stand-up. I don't know. 14, Andy Kaufman. Sure. 13, Bill Hicks. That's bad news for Dennis Leary. 12, Robin Williams. 11, Steve Martin. You ready for the top 10 here? 10, Mort Saul. Rolling Stone writers just trying to prove they did some homework. 9, Dave Chappelle. 8, Bill Cosby. I told you this list would probably be a little different if we did it now. 7, Jerry Seinfeld. 6, Joan Rivers. 5, Chris Rock. 4, Louis C.K. He'll be lower now. 3, Lenny Bruce. Interesting. 2, George Carlin. And can you figure out who number 1 is? If I gave you all those other names, yes, of course. Number 1, Richard Pryor. All right, nothing egregious there in the top 10. Johnny Mac, what is your personal list? I don't know how to rank them, but off the top of my head, I'm a big fan of Carlin. I'm a big fan of Hedberg. Being my age, I loved Eddie Murphy, but I can't ignore that Eddie Murphy's doing a really good cover act of Richard Pryor, so I'd have to throw Pryor in the mix, even though I've always enjoyed Eddie's material more than Richard's. So a little challenging there for me. I do like the kind of comic like Patton Oswalt, Brian Posehn. I do like that style of comedy a lot. I do like Bill Burr a lot. I don't know if I'm ready to give you a definitive 5. Kinnison was awesome. Do I have to give you a top 5? How about this? It's 500 years from now. We're all in heaven at the Cool Comedy Club. Who's playing? I want to see Hedberg, Kinnison, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy. That's 4. Give him one more name, John. And Shang Wang. I want to see Shang Wang. He can open. And that's your comedy news for today. John, there was no news today. You know what I mean. It's how I lock out the show. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.